Welcome, friends, to this live stream. Good morning. Myself and also Venerable Kimawamsi would like to speak a little bit, following on from last night's conversation with Bhante Sudaso about renunciation and simplicity. We had a question that came up about the recognition of arrogance, of pride in oneself, and how to work with that. So I thought that was a very interesting topic, and we could perhaps say a little bit more about this defilement, this complex of conceit, pride, arrogance, superiority, complex. In Pali, the word that really covers this is mana. Mana meaning conceit. And it's quite interesting to me that the word mana is so close to the word mano, for mind, isn't it? I mean, whether that would have an association in the mind of a Pali speaker, for me it does. And it sort of leads me to consider how much the mind is tainted and often overwhelmed by mana, by conceit. This is the final fetter that we have to break through in order to attain liberation. So it's a very important topic for us. There's a very famous painting by an Italian Renaissance master, whose name I can't remember, but I remember the painting. It's a nativity scene, and this is where Jesus has just been born, Mary, Joseph, the parents in the stable, and in the hills behind there are the shepherds watching the sheep, being visited by a deva, by an angel, telling them the good news of the birth of the Son, the birth of the pure-hearted one. And it's really interesting in this painting, there's a beautiful scene, and then right in the foreground there's this huge ugly piece of granite, like a rock, in the foreground of this painting. You think, why would the artist put that in the middle in front of the image of Jesus and this beautiful nativity scene? And when the artist was asked about why he had this ugly forefront in the painting, he said, this is pride. This is a representation of pride, of conceit. This is the obstacle. This is the ugly mass that prevents us from reaching the pure-hearted, from this birth, the birth of goodness, the birth of liberation. So it's really interesting. It's a Christian image, a Christian concept, but we can understand very well, I think, what the artist was pointing to and how wise, how helpful to consider. Can we see the rock? Can we see that which is obscuring our clear vision, that which is obscuring this purity of heart? So I brought a Buddhist teaching from the Samyutta Nikaya this morning because, funnily enough, I read this in my daily studies yesterday, and then we had the question about arrogance. How do I work with arrogance, or how am I working with arrogance, with conceit? And this verse is just so relevant. So it's from the Samyutta Nikaya. It's the verses of Vangisa. Vangisa was a poet at the time of the Buddha. He ordained as a bhikkhu, and there are beautiful verses from Vangisa the monk. All of his poetic skills were channeled then into praising the Buddha, praising the Dhamma, extolling the greatness of the Triple Gem. And he was very eloquent. So actually, when you look at these suttas, they're very beautiful. Poetry for us. But in this verse, Vangisa is recognizing the danger of his special quality, his special talent. He's fallen into mana. He's fallen into pride, into conceit. So I'm going to read this short sutta. Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 8, verse 3. Pesala Sutta, good-hearted. At one time, Venerable Vangisa was staying near Alawi at the Agalawa tree shrine, together with his mentor, Venerable Nigrodha Kappa. Now at that time, Venerable Vangisa looked down upon other good-hearted mendicants because of his own poetic virtuosity. Then he thought, it's my loss, it's my misfortune, that I look down on other good-hearted mendicants because of my own poetic virtuosity. Then, on the occasion of arousing remorse in himself, he recited these verses. So then his poetry manifests in this wholesome way. He says, give up conceit, Gautama. Completely abandon the different kinds of conceit. Besotted with the different kinds of conceit, you have had regrets for a long time. So this is interesting, just to recognize the clear connection, right, between pride, conceit, and regret. And, you know, isn't it the case when we act out of a sense of superiority, a sense of self-importance, a kind of making ourselves higher and therefore making others lower, when we behave with this kind of mind state, we're likely to do things that create and cause regret for us later or even in that moment. In the case of Vangisa, maybe he had done or said some unfortunate things and then he had a chance to feel the discomfort of regret and reconsider. And Bhante, as you said just a little bit earlier, pride comes before a fall is this common expression in the English language. Pride comes before a fall. It brings to mind that painting again. There's the rock. It's right there in front of us. Pride. If we're not careful, if we don't see it, we'll probably take a tumble. We're going to fall over. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be ashamed. We're going to be humiliated. Because the things that we say and do with a mind of pride will create these conditions for us. So we can try and catch it. Catch any thoughts of self and other, actually. Because most often when we have thoughts of self and other, pride is there. It's there. We're starting almost immediately to make comparisons. And as soon as we do that, we're into mana, we're into conceit. So let's see if we can catch this tendency not to be afraid to face it. And often when we do, when we recognize arrogance in ourselves, there's a sense of shame. And that's not something to shy away from, that's something to welcome, because it stops us, doesn't it? It stops us in our tracks. And then we can start to roll the rock away from the foreground, put it to one side. And this is really something I think we have to do again and again, you know, because we have this conditioning. we have the conditioning of me and you, self and other, seeing things in this distorted way, and then making ourselves better, worse, or the same even. Whether we generate conceit in a superiority complex or in an inferiority complex, or even a quest for equality, all of it has to be recognized and let go of. It doesn't mean we don't work for the common good, say, in terms of equality for people to be able to be relating to one another in a level way, but it's very important for us not to get caught up and entangled in the conceit that will be imbuing our view. Very subtle, often very subtle. We have to take great care. So back to the verse. So Vangisa has recognized regret. You have had regrets for a long time. Another important little point there is that when we do recognize defilement, sometimes we can be almost a bit overwhelmed by the history. Like you look back at your whole life and you think, I've been doing this ever since I can remember. I've been feeling superior to others or feeling inferior to others, not good enough. My goodness. Sometimes when we have a realization, a defilement appears for us, we're starting to see for the first time what's been in the mind but not recognized, we can feel overwhelmed. Oh my goodness. But not to allow regret, remorse, or shame to overwhelm us, but rather to be grateful. Yes, I'm in a place now where I can dismantle all of that and I can start afresh. Always on this path of Dhamma, we can start afresh. In fact, we are starting afresh every moment. We just need to realize that. So going on with the verse, Vangisa continues. Smeared by smears and slain by conceit, people fall into hell. When people slain by conceit are reborn in hell, they grieve for a long time. So for me, this is touching on what I was saying. There's a danger of making the remorse, the shame, the sadness that we can feel when we see ourselves clearly. We can make that a cause for suffering. And it's really important for us not to do that. Because again, it's the same old conceit, right? If I'm struggling with pride and I've managed to recognize that I've been arrogant, do I really want to then fall into the hell of guilt and remorse and shame? Or do I want to recognize them and also, rather than gathering my conceit around those qualities, gathering my attachments around them, I want to let go also of these qualities. So the letting go is constant, and we can forget sometimes. We can let go of one thing and then hold on to another. And oftentimes people will let go of one defilement and grab onto another. It's slightly less painful maybe. Or maybe it's sometimes more painful to feel guilt and shame than to be causing harm. But let's remember letting go, letting go, letting go. Layer after layer after layer of defilements can fall away. So here Vangisa, to me, is describing the rock. You've seen the pride, you feel the shame. Don't stand on the rock. Move the rock aside. Let the rock go. Not to fall into hell. He goes on. So this is like stage 1, stage 2, now stage 3 of the process of letting go of pride. A mendicant who practices rightly, winner of the path, never grieves. They enjoy happiness and a good reputation. And they rightly call such a one a seer of truth. This is where we want to rest, or this is where we want to keep touching into the letting go and that sense of nobody, nothing, sense of open space, sense of freedom, lightness. We all know that. And we can recognize when we're burdened. And just to keep coming to this place of letting go of all of the levels, layers, resistances, reactivities, from pride to shame to freedom. And the last verse goes like this. So don't be hard-hearted. Be energetic. With hindrances given up, be pure. Then, with conceit given up completely, use knowledge to make an end and be at peace. Conceit given up completely. So the pointer I'm taking from this as I speak is, let's remember conceit has many forms. And most obviously, it can be a superiority complex, an inferiority complex, pride, holding to oneself, reifying this mind and all its defilements. And from there, we start letting go and we can feel the remorse. We can feel the, oh my goodness, what have I been doing my whole life? I've wasted my whole life. We can feel the guilt. We can feel the shame. We can regret wrongdoings that have been done through ignorance. More conceit. This is more conceit. Let's remember that and keep letting go and come to this place where the heart is soft, not to be hard-hearted. Let the heart become very soft. Let the heart become very porous. Let the heart dissolve. And then, with conceit given up completely, we can use knowledge to make an end and be at peace. So thank you to this beautiful verse from Wangisa Bhikkhu. And I'd like to invite Venerable Kemalawasi, if you feel you'd like to, please give some teachings for us on this topic.
We have like a conversation.
Yeah, we can have a conversation, all of us. I'll keep an eye on the chat also.
When you touch upon this topic of the arrogance, pride, or conceit, I was thinking about the Mankala Sutra. Have you heard Mankala Sutra, right?
Yeah.
And there's one word. The blessed one said that Niwato, right? Niwato cha. Santuti cha katanita. I'm not quite sure, but Niwato. Wata is like wind, right? Niwato is just like not to be arrogant. When people are arrogant, pride, right? The characters change, right? Like I'm better than you, something like that. But Niwato is like, I don't know in English, but in Thai, Niwato is just like get rid of the wind, just like pride, but now humble. Yes. So humble is one of the Mankala.
Yeah.
So instead of having pride or arrogance and think that you're superior than someone else, it's not a good thing. But when you're humble, doesn't equal to when you feel inferior to others, right?
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's an important difference, isn't it?
Yes.
As you speak, I have the image of a balloon.
Yeah.
When we say in English, we say when you're proud, you're puffed up. with pride, puffed up, like we do say with the body language like this.
Yes.
And then the humility like deflating, like the
Deflating.
balloon, it can just relax, actually, just relax,
Yes.
you know, maybe let out some air.
Yes. Yeah, I like this one.
And this is not about superior or inferior, it's more about agitation and peace,
Yes.
pride and humility, suffering and well-being. Like
Yes.
this. Yeah. Yeah.
But as you mentioned that it's not easy to get rid of the mana, right? Because it's the final filter. The arahantship, when you attain arahantship, then you can get rid of all the mana, right? But I think for the sodapanna, they can know like have the right view to view the mana. But as you mentioned, like it's the final filter.
Yeah.
So when you just like sometimes when you like without knowing like have pride or feel inferior or superior than someone else, maybe just think like, okay, now I recognize and now I can start afresh again because I know that I'm not arahant. People can make mistake. Okay, I know I recognize the fault, recognize the unwholesome qualities that arising, and then just let go. And then keep practicing.
Absolutely. Sadhu. And the teachings help us so much, don't they? Because we're constantly reminded, oh, look out for this. Be aware. You know, this is something that we're swimming in, this sense of conceit. Yes. It's very subtle because it's not just about pride, is it? It's more like, well, every time we have a sense of self, there is conceit in that. So it's very fundamental, isn't it? And we're laboring with this fundamental delusion. And it's reinforced by everything around us. It's reinforced by the senses. I look at you, you're over there. I'm over here. You're separate. There's you and there's me. So it's very difficult for us to break through. And, you know, it takes everything we have. And in the verse, I remember the word energetic, be energetic. So it's like an invitation for us, isn't it, to be really very alert at all times. Just to notice, am I creating self and other in this moment? Usually the answer is yes, you know. So it's great to have this, the teachings that are pointing us to this level of mindfulness in every moment, to keep investigating mana. Yeah.
And you know, sometimes we are blind by, you know, our own thought and, you know, mana and conceit and pride. So it's very important to have someone, you know, as a teacher, like Kalyanamit, just like the Pra Ananta Bhikkhu, right, that asks the Blessed One that, you know, Kalyanamitta is maybe like half of the Brahmachari, right? Yeah. But the Blessed One said, no, not half, the whole. So we need to have someone as Kalyanamitta, who is have like you know, like have the right wisdom, right knowledge, and who you look up to as a teacher, who you listen to, right? Because sometimes we just feel arrogant that, oh no, I don't believe you, or something like that. But if we have someone as a teacher who we look highly, you know, on, and then we listen to them, and they know the right path, have the right wisdom, and can guide us to the right direction, just like the Blessed One or the noble disciples or our teacher, to guide us and then to point out that now, mana, be careful.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's such an important point. Two things for me so important in what you said. One, the importance of having teachers, having guides on the path, and also the importance of others, anyone, everyone around us. it's like we can't see our own face.
Yes.
I can't see my own face. Maybe I got some banana from breakfast here. I don't really know. Sometimes I think that maybe there's something. I don't know. I can't see my own face. But you can all see my face. If I've got banana or chocolate smeared over my face, everyone else can see it. But I don't necessarily know myself. And it's like that with our qualities, isn't it? You know, I may be completely oblivious, not know at all. I'm just a very arrogant person. And everyone can tell me, everyone can say, yeah, well, you have this characteristic, or you have this body language, or you have this attitude. Very easy. One thing that strikes me about monastic life is that a beautiful thing about it is that we don't tend to point out each other's faults. We don't tend to categorize each other, do we? We leave each other alone. We allow each other to discover for ourselves the work that is to be done. But nevertheless, in subtle ways, we can see how people around us are behaving towards us, and it tells us so much. So the beauty of Sangha, the beauty of community, one of the great benefits is that we have these mirrors all around us, showing us, just seeing how people respond to the way we speak, the way we act. We can see, oh, okay, something not quite right. What's happening in this way? Kalyana Metta, as you say, spiritual friendship, also teachers, and as the Buddha said, the whole of the holy life.
Yes.
Not just half and under, but the whole of the holy life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's great to have the Kalyana Mitta.
Absolutely.
It's great to have one, and it's great to be one for others as well.
Right. Yeah, how to be a good friend, and how to gently help each other and guide each other. Actually, often without any thought of doing so. No thought about that, because we're all so busy doing our own work. We're also busy noticing the defilements here. We don't really, you know, it's for many people too much to extend. Good teachers will extend themselves and give energy to supporting others in their practice. This is a great gift, worthy of great respect. But even if we're not at that level of generosity, if we don't have that capacity, and we're just doing our work, you know, trying to live a good life and purify this heart and mind, even so, we can see how sometimes with others we can find ways to support their practice too. And oftentimes it's simply kindness and goodwill, but sometimes a word here or there, just a small gesture. In these ways, it's really rich, isn't it? This field of community and interaction, and the wisdom that can come for us in a group is really awesome, actually. Thank you so much, Ayya. Shall we have a look at the chat?
Yes.
We'll have a look and see if we have any comments or questions. With big thanks to you all for joining us this morning. Welcome, friends. Jayantha and Richard, Edward, Sud, P.V., Pamela, Solmin, Louisa, Suman, Niranjan, Sud, Richard, John, and Tinnery. Hello, Tinnery. Tinnery was here at Empty Cloud for quite some time. I had the great pleasure of practicing with her. Good to see you. Well, not to see you, but to see your name at least, and to know that you're there. So thank you for your kind comments, everyone. We have someone from Nepal with us. Wonderful, the Buddha's birthplace. And we have a question from Sud. Thank you, Sud. It goes like this. Oh, I can actually click on it.
Yeah, you click on it and show it.
Yeah, got it on the screen. Let me read it out for those who can't see it. Dear Ayya, can you clarify conceit here? Is the conceit taking this body, stroke 5 khandhas, as self, or is it something else? Yeah, thank you. Would you like to, do you feel you like to?
The conceit here, right? Actually, there are 9 mana, right? Let me have a look.
Thank you. Great.
The conceit here, the Blessed One said there are 9. The first one, I'm going to read from the Tipitaka. The first one is being superior to others. One thing, better I am. The second one, being superior to others. One thinks, equal I am. Third one, being superior to others. One thinks, worse I am. The fourth one, being equal to others. One thinks, better I am. Being equal to others, one thinks, equal I am. Number 6, being equal to others, one thinks, worse I am. 7, being inferior to others, one thinks, better I am. 8, being inferior to others, one thinks, equal I am. 9, the last one, being inferior to others, one thinks, worse I am. This is the 9 conceit. So it can be divided into thinking, being superior, being equal, and being inferior. And then you have like the false notion, right? Like when you are superior and you think like, oh, you inferior or you equal, but actually you like superior, just like the same.
Yeah.
Is it get confusing?
No, it's really great to have that. Thank you, because yes, it covers the full spectrum, doesn't it, of how we can, and perhaps we are not always in one category. We might move from category to category, and isn't it the case often it's like a pendulum swinging? It's like one moment I feel superior to everybody, I'm the best, and the next moment, oh dear, I'm the lowest of the low. These things often go together. We'll swing from one to the other, and the place to come to is a place of letting go of all of that selfing. But thank you, because it's interesting how many of those categories are totally deluded. Not only are they, manifesting superior, equal, or inferior, but they're thinking something else. So how confusing is that?
Yeah.
So
it's about comparison.
Yeah, endless comparisons.
Endless comparison.
Wonderful. Whereabouts is that from in the Pali Canon? Have you got the reference there?
There's a lot from, but it's in Thai. It's from like the sutra and also from Abhidhamma.
Okay, which sutta is it from?
Can
you see easily, or we can tell
take a
folks,
look.
because it's worth reading that again. Consider all these different categories.
The number of this question here? In Gujarat Nikaya.
Yeah, in Anguttara maybe in the 9s.
Mahanithet. Kuttaka Nikaya, yes. Mahanithet. Attaka Vakika.
Okay, so Khuddaka Nikaya. Book, Sutta Pitaka, book 21. Oh, it doesn't give the actual reference, but Khuddaka Nikaya, it'll probably be in the Book of 9s. Have a look. Homework. Okay, we have another question. Yeah, thank you. Venerable Metiko is going to have a look for us. Excellent. Because that is a very good teaching and framework to relate to our experience, and just to see how you can use that for rooting out mana in the mind, in the heart. So just while Bante is looking out the reference for us, we can take another question. Question from Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Here, number 29.
Yay. Okay, the question goes like this. Can the practice of Hiri and Otapa serve and be used as a way of avoiding and letting go of the layers of arrogance, pride, and conceit? Great question. Thank you, Richard. Yes, absolutely. This is really helpful, actually, that you bring this in. because these qualities of hiri and otapa are really helpful labels for us for the sense of shame or remorse that can arise when we are letting go of hindrances such as pride or arrogance. And rather than sinking into yet more suffering, we can recognize, oh, this is hiri. This is wholesome, a wholesome sense of shame or remorse. And with otapa, before we continue in the same direction without changing course, we can recognize this fear of falling into the same kinds of mistakes when we act out of pride or conceit, say in this example. So to be vigilant is to have hiri on one shoulder, right? And otapa on the other, like our guardian angels. And isn't it the case in so many temples in Thailand and elsewhere, we have these two represented as devas, hiri and otapa, guarding the doors of the temple. So as you go in, they're there. And so they guard the doors of the mind, of the heart. And it's just so helpful to have these concepts, isn't it? And to investigate what did the Buddha mean by hiri? What does this word really mean? Something like guilt or shame, but it's not really, for me in English, the quality of guilt is something rather unwholesome because it's not very useful, you know? You just feel bad, nobody benefits. Shame, on the other hand, is something like a flushing through of the system and changing the system. So I manifest arrogance, I go back to my room, I feel, oh, I spoke to that person in such a superior way. Heat arises, shame arises, and the whole system can kind of rebalance. So this quality is like a transformation for us to prevent us from going down the painful route again, or route again. And with otapa, it's like that which stops us in our tracks. Before we make a mistake, the fear of wrongdoing can arise for us. So I feel that it's really good to speak about these qualities in this talk today. So thank you so much for bringing them in, Richard. Anything you'd like to add about hiri otapa?
Hiri and otapa, right, is the moral shame and the moral dread, right? I like the way that you mentioned that the otapa, like the hiri first. The hiri, like you feel the shame to do that. Maybe or I did, in the way that make me like portray as I'm superior than that person, and then I go back to my room and then I feel shame of doing that. So next time when you're about to do things, then you have the mindfulness, and then oh, I used to have the shame, in the past. So I know that this is not the good thing to do, and then it can block, it can like interfere, and just like make me don't do that again. And about the otapa is when you fear for the outcomes. Like maybe actually hiri and otapa is the factor for the sila. If you have hiri and otapa, then you can have a sila or precepts.
Yes.
And even purer precepts. So when it's just the same thing for hiri and otapa, if okay, I've done wrong before, I've made a mistake before, and now I'm afraid of the outcomes that I might do it again, so I can prevent myself from doing it. So hiri and otapa can help avoid and the arrogance, being arrogant, and avoid of the mana or conceit. And at the same time, don't let the dread, don't let the fear to be like the unwholesome qualities that all the time, just not cling on to it. That this is not good, but I don't want to make the same mistake again. But at the same time, in the past I did wrong, but just in the past. this is the new khandha, this is the new five aggregates, this is the new thing all the time. So let go of the past. Now I know this is not a good thing to do. I won't do it again. And try to have hiri and ottappa to block or to prevent you from doing bad things. That's what I think.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful. Okay, dear friends, let's see if there's any more questions from the chat. Okay.
Banana on the face.
We do have a question, and it's slightly not on exactly the topic, but hey, we've got a bit of time. Scott, thank you for your question. Let's see where we can go with it. Scott says, Venerables, my parents and teacher are aging. There are many perils associated with maintaining sila while being in the sometimes distressing environments, such as hospitals. Please help. Yeah, it's really interesting, Scott. I'm sorry to hear how challenging the situation is for you at the moment. We were talking yesterday, actually, at the mealtime about the aging parents and people. So many of us have, can resonate with your situation. We were talking about just this kind of challenge. So I'm interested to take your question and let's see how we can respond. Would you like to, anything you'd like to say?
I don't know the word perils.
Peril means like danger, many dangers. To try to maintain sila in the different environments like hospitals. Both parents and teacher are aging, and I guess, Scott, that you're trying to support and help them and going with them into all sorts of situations that they may find themselves in. And for you to maintain your integrity and your precepts, sometimes a little bit challenging.
I guess he means about like the fourth one, right? The musavada, right?
Could be. We don't really know, huh? But you're absolutely, Ayya. We can almost assume that it would be around harmfulness or speech. Most likely. Assuming that you're not getting into alcohol with them. That would be unfortunate. If you are, just don't drink. But otherwise, the precepts, I'm guessing, something around speech. If you want to say any more, Scott, do feel free, so we can explore further. My sense is that don't know what your situation is. We don't know. So we always, in the end, when we have a question, in this way, it's interesting, isn't it? We're going to come back to our own experience. And we hope and trust, actually, that as human beings, we're likely to have some similarities in our experience. So I'm only guessing, but I'm imagining that in certain situations with your elders that you're trying to care for, you may feel compromised around speech, perhaps, around ways of behaving that you wouldn't normally want to be involved in. And I feel always there's a balance for us. There's a call for wisdom. There's a call for discernment, to be very mindful of the precepts, to keep contemplating our behavior with wisdom. And also there's a balancing quality, which is compassion, where, when we're caring for others, caring for ourselves, we resonate with the suffering that's happening around us, before us, with those we're caring for. And this too can be a great guide for us. So, an example, a simple example from my life. Elderly parents, spending time with them, caring for them. They like to watch stuff on TV, stuff I wouldn't want to necessarily be watching, but I'll sit and watch with them. And it's like, yeah, I'm not really supposed to, in terms of my vinaya, I'm not supposed to do that. But I'm not doing that to indulge in entertainment. I'm doing that out of compassion, to be with and to support others. So, it's like so many things in life, it's not kind of black and white for us often. Sila to me is not like a rule book, it's more like a living framework. And one can be guided by that and see the interface between our own ethical standards and the standards of the world around us. And with compassion, do our very best to maintain wisely our own standards, but not to force that or impose that or judge others for not meeting that standard. And it's very interesting, actually, because as I'm speaking, I can see the connection with conceit, because again, it's like that making of self and other. With a heart of compassion, we can actually let go of those barriers and really meet the other non-judgmentally, kindly. And I've always been very touched by the words of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, when asked about religion, spirituality. All of you will be aware of this statement he made, that the most important quality, the most important thing for us human beings is to be kind. To be kind. So I think when we bring in kindness and compassion and keep wisdom, the sword of wisdom to hand, we can find our way, and it can be so challenging because we never know what situation will come next. But with these two, wisdom and compassion, let them be our guides. And I trust that these qualities that you have will guide you in the situation and give you peace of heart also within the challenging situations that you're finding yourself in. All the best to you, Scott. Anything you'd like to?
I would like to add on that for the sila, there's one sutra, the Blessed One said the sila should be accompanied with the wisdom. Have you heard? Sila with wisdom is together, just as like wash hand with hand, wash foot with
wash one with the other.
Yes.
You need both hands to
both.
wash the hands.
Yes. So to keep sila, you need to have the right wisdom as well, to know that how to balance. This is like you said, how to balance and how to, keep the precept with a peace of mind. Peace of mind. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we can bring in qualities to help us, can't we? Bringing qualities to mind. It's really amazing to me how we have a whole repertoire, a whole toolkit of good qualities, parami, on this path of practice. And it's amazing to me how we can just bring a quality to mind and it will start to manifest for us. Say in a situation where I'm feeling a lot of aversion, I can just remember there is this quality of metta. There is this quality of kindness. Okay. And I don't necessarily immediately feel it. I'm still feeling aversion, but I'm aware that there is this possibility, and it will come in if we direct our attention in these good ways. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Scott, for bringing that in for us, and do really wish you well with your situation. I hope all of you will be able to join us again. When's the next session?
Tonight. There's monk chat. Today's Friday, right?
It's tonight. Great. So we have monk chat tonight at 7:30, and do hope that some or all of you will be able to join us then. And some of us will be here. Not sure who. This morning, Bante, Siddhartha, and Ayya have gone out on an arms round. another long walk, just like yesterday. And but they will be back, of course, this evening. So, yeah, any questions from either? Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. Oh, Scott has come back with a comment. Thank you, Scott. Okay, he says, thank you for keeping he says, if I'm interacting with doctors and distress arises in the heart and mind, I'm more likely to transgress. With a history of hatred and anger, fears arise that I may transgress. Oh, thank you for explaining a little bit more for us, Scott. So, a history of hatred and anger towards the doctors, the carers in the hospital. So many people have difficult experiences in hospital when we're so sort of vulnerable and at the mercy of whatever's going on around us. It can really bring up for us very deep suffering. And I know as a doctor myself, the other side of needing to be aware of that and how much people can sometimes be overwhelmed, and to have compassion for that. And I hear you, that you're afraid that you may lose it with some of those professionals who are looking out for your parents and teacher. Don't be afraid, because you're so conscious of this, because you're even sharing it with the community, which opens it as well and gives us all a chance to consider you and send metta to you, which we will be doing. And I'm sure all the friends who are here, gathered here this morning, will be keeping you in mind, keeping you in our hearts. So you've opened it up. And I really feel, it's like with pride, with this quality of conceit, with mana, if we can kind of admit to ourselves, do our own confession here, open up to the fear of wrongdoing, open up to the tendencies that we have, recognize them for what they are, then we have a very good chance of staying steady. And when you start to notice reactivity, you're very likely to be able to catch it. Breathe deep, just relax and do nothing. Don't speak. Just watch and wait and meditate, and you will be able to manage to be present for whatever unfolds. And remembering that our practice and our ability to be equanimous, to be patient, to manifest khanti, patience in these difficult situations, this is like a balm for everyone. It's like a soothing energy for everyone, helping, those doctors and nurses, helping your loved ones, helping everyone around you. So remember that, and be a kind of a deva, be an angel of kindness and compassion for all of those people. Non-discrimination, it's like for everyone here, everyone involved in this situation, may you all be well. And this will buoy you up and support you. And I know you can understand this, and that you'll be able to practice in this way. Thank you, Scott. Anything you'd like to say?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Metta.
Does everyone suffer?
Everyone suffers. Yeah.
So metta.
Metta. We all need metta. We all need to have this as our, I was going to say armor, but that's a bit kind of militaristic or something. We need to have metta as our protection, as our friend, and as our gift to everyone around us, our gift to ourselves. So much metta to you, Scott. Thank you, everyone. I think we'll conclude here with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank Thank you so much.